I think there are some people who genuinely buy in and like are hysterical. And then I think there's a lot, and I mean a lot, of very cynical actors who just see a political advantage that they're pressing. But there has been in the news basically nonstop coverage of, quote, rampant I'm not quoting anyone, but I'm kind of quoting everyone at the same time, rampant anti-Semitism on universities that is framed in a way where it is a violent threat to Jewish students.
Yeah.
It's pretty difficult, if not impossible, to find violent incidents that are sort of being vaguely talked about. On Columbia's campus in particular, I was really I was curious because I hadn't heard about any like beatings or punchings or any sort of like violent incidents towards Jewish students on campus, but I was like, well, maybe I missed something. I've never been there. I'll talk to quite a few people. I did a lot of research outside of that as well, and I couldn't find any incidents of that. The closest I could find to a truly like a violent incident was back in January. There was a march protesting the war in Gaza, where a lot of student protesters were sort of marching around the quad. And 2 ex-IDF soldiers who are at the GSC or whatever college there sprayed them with skunk spray, which is a non-lethal chemical weapon that was developed in Israel.
Yeah, we should say. I do want to say really quick about that. Developed in Israel, used on the Gazan population.
Yeah,
and then Israel has also attempted to sell it and export it to.
Yes.
Police in the U.S., and I believe many of the forces have declined to buy it because of how awful it is. It's like it smells. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It smells like animal poop.
Yeah,
and it's not. It's like for like dispersing crowds. It gets on you. It's kind of like a smelly tear gas.
It really is.
Right?
So, funnily enough, actually, it was used yesterday to disperse anti-Netanyahu protesters in Israel. But when they disperse it, I was talking to one of the women who was hit by this.
Yeah. At Columbia.
At Columbia. She had lived in Palestine for 5 years. She was like a grad student or something. She was a little older than like the undergrads there. She lived in Palestine for like 5 years. She said she'd seen it used multiple times, but it's usually used from a hose on top of like an armored vehicle. So it's dispersed in that like sort of similar.
Kind of like sprays.
Like a misting or whatever.
Misting. So it's a little lighter.
This is like a concentrated spray from like a canister.
That she was hit with. On the campus of Columbia.
Yeah. By 2 of the, I guess, over 200 ex-IDF soldiers that attend the GSC there, or the GS. So a few days later, she said that night, she's like, wow, I fucking stink. Like, this sucks. She threw their clothes away. Some kids did not, or some adults did not. But she's like, yeah, about 18 people were hit. She threw her clothes away. But a few days later, and this, I spoke to this woman at length. I have a pretty good eye for a nervous ninny. This was not a nervous ninny.
A nervous ninny?
Somebody of maybe like a fragile
demeanor.
Disposition. Yeah.
Orientation.
This lady was
strong as hell.
Yeah, she was totally not somebody I thought was being histrionic or anything like that at all. But she laid this out very matter of fact. A few days later, she had heart palpitations. Went to CU Health. They gave her EKG, but they didn't have the equipment to treat her, so they walked her to Mount Sinai. There, she realizes that 3 other people, one of which she knew about, but then there was 2 others that she didn't know about, had been hospitalized after being sprayed with the skunk spray. They did like an EKG, chest X-ray. They gave her a nebulizer, sent her home after 10 hours. She wakes up a few days, shortly after, like maybe a couple days later, extremely sick, throws up for like hours and hours and hours, inflammation in the chest, and overall about 12 people hospitalized. She also said that her and multiple other of the women that were hit have had vaginal bleeding consistently for several months, which seems pretty concerning.